I'm the Alchemist Astrologer, and this is your May forecast for Libra Sun, Libra Rising, and Libra Moon. So what's at the heart of a situation for you? You have this King of Pentacles. This is Earth sign energy, perhaps a Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising. The King of Pentacles is about the material, a connection to the earthly sphere. And he's very concerned with making money, investments, acquisition, his possessions, real estate, to the point that he sometimes views his partner as a piece of property. This is someone who wants to know about the bottom line. He's going to check the receipts. He's going to look over the ledger. Things have to add up. They have to be practical. They have to make sense. He's not going to invest in anything that carries a large risk factor. For some of you, this may be a friend, or you may be trying to establish something materially or emotionally with a group dynamic, group associations, friends, people of like mind, getting support. So again, there's a desire to establish something, open new doorways, new avenues of income, new emotional growth. The problem is this king also has a lot of clutter. He can get lost in the material or the physical senses. And he can be very critical and very controlling. You also have the Death card here, which may be a tie to a Scorpio. And so there is a need to express something, either to release what you've been holding back or to renew something that may tie to your dreams or your vitality. Now, this could be very intense expression because you may be dealing with a stressful or crisis-oriented situation. It may be the actual death of something or a situation or a deep, profound need for change. So some kind of transformation is taking place. Now, it could be the release of some large funds or the release of an asset. It could be the death of someone. But there's a need to communicate, and there's intense communication. Now, again, this may tie to large sums of money, power struggles. It may be taxes or debts or insurance or shared resources or perhaps even sexuality. You may be dealing with something very tied to the psychological, and maybe a lot of the transformation is taking place within the psyche. Whatever it is, there's a need for change, to reinvent yourself. Make some changes in a situation. So you're going to have to improve, repair, clarify something, or you're going to have to release or surrender to a circumstance that is inevitable. It could be you're meeting with an agent of change somehow. Now, in the past, there's a connection to the Hierophant, maybe a Taurus person. If not, this may be expectations. There's a desire to attract something or influence a matter to bend the way you would like. So expectations. Now, for some of you, this may be government funds, or it may be doing what is expected with regard to insurance, death, taxes. You may be dealing with conservatism, establishments like banks or institutions or educational systems, churches. Could also be ceremonies. Maybe there is a birthday or an anniversary. So a cycle ends and a new cycle begins. So this is about doing what is expected. And you're having to make some choices about whether you want to color inside of the line or you want to break with rank and do something different. That may be called for a new order, thinking in a different way. Could even be new age concepts or, cutting edge thinking. Because with the Hierophant here, the danger is falling into a dogma, a fixed pattern of thinking, being stubborn and not letting something go. There could also be issues connected to commitment, marriage, partnership. So you may be renewing your vows, or you may be ending some type of commitment. Now, this could be a very prolific period for you where you are getting a lot done. You are reinventing yourself. You're making some deep transformation and making a lot of changes and making a lot of progress as part of that process. But more often than not, this is a card that's showing up because recently you dealt with some kind of drama or scandal or intrigue that was caused by some inconsistencies of speech or behavior on your part or that of others. So this would be the case where somebody continuously says, I'm going to do this, and they fail to deliver, and then there are repercussions to contend with. They're the consequences of actions not followed through. You also have the Queen of Pentacles. And the Queen of Pentacles, again, we have earth energy and we have a couple here. So there's a desire to establish something. The Queen of Pentacles wants to see tangible growth. And she's very good at organizing, planning, budgeting, mastering the resources to produce whatever it is that she wants, whether that is to manage her home, her health, her family, her business. She's quite capable of taking on a lot. Now, negatively, this is a lack of common sense. She may not be domestic at all. She may not be caring properly for herself or her surroundings, in which case she wouldn't be doing what was expected. But in the positive, she is focused on producing some results, and in this case, perhaps someone wants some answers. It could be that this queen is seeking answers about someone doing what is expected, or there could be questions about if something was properly managed, perhaps an inheritance or a large sum of money or insurance or taxes or even debt. So someone is looking at their security very closely, making some important changes to see if expectation levels were met and whether something was managed properly or someone went beyond their personal authority. Now, presently, there's a desire to walk away from a situation, something that was less than fulfilling, whether it was a relationship or a circumstance. Someone is moving on. There's some disenchantment with the past, and perhaps you're finally gaining the confidence to walk away from a situation. If you were dealing with surgery, maybe this had something to do with actually walking. Maybe you had hip surgery or foot surgery. But you're moving on from a situation that may be tied to this King of Pentacles. Or maybe you're walking toward something to establish greater security. You also have the Chariot card, and that is a tie to Cancer in some cases. But there's a strong focus on an objective, a goal, and doing what it takes. You may be moving on from something to focus on a goal that means a lot to you, and you're putting all of your energy and effort into it. But emotions are very important right now, and perhaps something is driving up your emotions connected to security and in fact making you angry. This is a time where you may have to walk away from situations that pull on your emotions. You're going to have to gain some self-mastery, some self-discipline to keep your eye on the prize. But it's also important to know when you need to work with others, when the team effort assures the victory. Perhaps you're reconciling a conflict with someone. You're dealing with the light and the shadow of yourself, of other people. You're trying to reconcile those differences. And you have to be careful of being impulsive or, acting immediately on your emotions and, in fact, missing the goal. So this is about knowing when to take charge, when to be the leader, when to fall back, because you're having a very strong effect on others. And for some of you, something is coming up where you may be focused on travel or some kind of adventure that's out of the ordinary, some quest that you're on, or it could be something romantic in nature. For some of you, this may simply be about travel. This could be about a vehicle or dealing with people who are connected to the military or police. In fact, this is a time where you should be especially careful about following the guidelines and doing what is expected, because if you're reckless in any way, there may be a price to pay, and it could be rather expensive. So you are thinking about something, either a conflict or a goal, and if you can move ahead, and whether there's some insensitivity in pushing past someone, a single-minded focus that becomes insensitivity where you're running over someone or someone's running over you. So you're doing some thinking about a goal, and perhaps you're getting some advice, or you feel angry because you feel as if you're not taken seriously with regard to something. You want to walk away from something where perhaps the expectation level wasn't met. You want to make some deep changes. Now, for some of you, again, you're releasing something, you're letting something go and moving on. In the future, you're taking a time out. There may not be a lot of movement or activity. Perhaps you're trying to recover from a situation and figure out what your next move is. Now, you may be going within, you may be connecting to divine source. Maybe this is spiritual meditation. You could be taking a break, resting, recuperating. For some of you, this may be dealing with surgeries. Perhaps there's someone in hospital, or somebody needs to go to the doctor's office or receive some kind of treatment. But more than likely, there's a break in the activity. There's a lull where you're not speaking to someone and things are not really moving forward. Because there's the desire to resurrect a partnership, to revive something that perhaps you thought was dead. But this is about figuring out your next move. Simply hoping that a problem will go away, or sweeping things under the rug, or not addressing them is going to create more problem than anything else. So you're figuring out what to do. Now, you may be making peace if this is a break. This could be a welcome break, where you're feeling okay about yourself, where you are, and you're not thinking any negative thoughts just because things are not moving quickly. But for some of you, you're going to want an apology. You want some answers. You want an explanation about why something occurred the way it did, why it played out like it did. And you may not be getting that. It may be difficult to revive a relationship. And you have a lot of cards about moving on. So this is either a literal moving on, moving locations, relocating, walking away from a relationship, or we're talking here about an actual death where someone's crossing over. But you are crossing over a negative situation, but you're still in choppy waters. You want to move past some toxicity, perhaps an abusive situation, so that you can recover. You're looking for some brighter days ahead. But before you can get from point A to point B, you're going to be revisiting either a place that you've been to or a situation and a circumstance. And it's going to require your patience. It's going to require you to go deeply within to try to gain some understanding of the other person's perspective. So for some of you, again, you may be dealing with travelers, people at a distance. You may be traveling yourself, or trying to gain some empowerment to move past toxic behavior situations where you've been continuously disappointed, and in the worst case scenario, even perhaps been involved in some kind of abuse. So you're walking away from something where there's been a long history. And it may be family history, could be a marital conflict, could be a lot of conservatism, old ways of thinking. Perhaps you're even tied to someone who's older. Or maybe this is about some parental concerns. Whatever it is, you're focused on the long term, your security, your investments. You may be going over your portfolio, real estate, debts, taxes, even retirement. And so there's a desire to become more devoted to those that you care about. Negatively, there's some squabbles, some drama, some estrangement, some separation, conflicts over money, the burdens that come with wealth. So you want to move past a history, and maybe this is somebody from your past where there was a strong desire. There's a strong desire also, though, to establish yourself for the long term and into the future. What's driving everything is the Knight of Swords. This could be air energy, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising. There is the opportunity for travel, for communication, but also for conflict. You may be involved with someone who is contentious, who continually drags you into conflict, or perhaps someone is rushing to protect you, to find a solution. There is the renewal of something, gaining some kind of peace. Perhaps you get some peace. Maybe again you're dealing with the government, some large funds, or settling something that ties to investments for the long term. This may be hospital situations where you're trying to heal, to recover. So you're having to be very careful to watch your moods, your emotions, the effect that you're having on others, getting answers about creating some profound change, about the expectation level between you and another person. Because the Knight of Swords says you need to choose your battles wisely. You could be coming in contact with people who are aggressive, or law enforcement agencies, or planning agencies, people that connect to decisions that have to be made. Now, there's an issue connected to cooperation with others, looking at the foundation to see where the cracks are. What can be improved? Where can we make difference? Where can we make some positive change? Or feeling as if you need to walk away from situations where people are continuously pulling you into conflict. They're emotionally insecure or too needy. There's some dependency issues. And there's some frustration going on. For some of you, there may be a third-party interference. There could be issues connected to surgery, heartache, grief, some bad news, some frustration, where there has been a breakdown of communication or negotiations. For some of you, this is going to tie to some form of legal issue, a legal settlement perhaps. Maybe you received some bad news, and maybe you were halfway expecting this, and so you've taken it in stride and you're moving on. But for others of you, it's become a challenge to deal with the truth, the reality of a situation, and perhaps you just don't know what to do. You're not able to come up with any answers. Because of a long history of something you're trying to move past. You don't have a lot of fire in this reading, so either there's not a strong desire, there's a lack of passion, a lack of motivation, or a lack of enough energy to get something going. This centers on some kind of promise and whether it was kept or it will be kept. Or it could be an invitation to some kind of event. For some of you, this may have to do with, unfortunately, a funeral. There's also the need to pay attention to the details. Something could fall through the cracks, and timing is very critical. With the King and the Queen here, we have an attraction, or we have a couple, possibly well-established, a long-term relationship. Maybe this is parental in nature. Could also be an affair or romance. We have a lot of traditional values, conservatism going on, and someone may need to prove their worthiness or they're being set on a quest. With three majors here, Death, the Hierophant, and Chariot. For some of you, you're trying to regenerate a circumstance or a relationship. You don't want to be, you want answers. You want to know what the expectation is and whether the rules are going to be followed, the promises are going to be kept, the commitment level is there. Because for some of you, you don't want to be in a situation where you don't have answers, where things are uncertain, where something is not growing. It's stagnant. For all intents and purposes, it's dead. You want to move on from dead, stagnant situations. You may have to come up with some original ideas about how to move things forward. Perhaps it's about following tradition, doing what is established, or in some cases, it's about breaking the rules. Again, striking a path that's different from the rest, marching to your own drumbeat. The problem is timing is an issue, and the Hierophant can mean that something is dragging. There's some kind of procrastination about something. Now, the Chariot card says you're going to have to work with things that are different, opposition to your ideas, people who are different than you are, and the differences within yourself, and you're going to have to figure out a way to bring that together rather than become apathetic. With a 10, you're closing out some kind of cycle. This is an ambitious development that has a finality to it. Now, what is your question? What am I afraid of losing? As we grow, change, and transform our lives, it requires us to let go of something that was to make room for something that will be. If you were to take the big leap, would you feel scared of losing love, safety, or belonging? Well, what if it was a big fat lie? What if it was impossible to lose any of those things because you have the power to give everything you need to yourself? So right now you need to think about a fear that you have and look at the worst case scenario. Find a solution and take your power back by being certain of who you are and where you're going. So this is a strong message to empower yourself. Get some answers so that you can make some changes. Now, what is the answer? Speak your truth. So this is going to be a month where, again, you're going to have to be very self-directed, very focused. And you're going to have to think about what the expectations are. Should you stop procrastinating? Should you get some answers about something? Is it time to let go of something that's not serving you and move toward a better, more targeted goal? But whatever it is, you're going to need to speak your truth, and you can't be afraid to do so. Now, something about this may be unsettling because it seems like there's an absence of support, absence of friends, maybe your children aren't around. There's also a lack of humility in this situation. Something is very intense, very heavy. So there's nothing fresh going on. There's no playfulness. There's that tendency to get very emotional, very angry. You want to walk away. You're trying to figure out what to do to get past a history of toxicity, to find what you need to come up with a solution to renew yourself, your circumstances, your situation.